who again goes around the world and participates in these different festivals and speaks. And sometimes, you have these apartheid people with a smile, the well-meaning apartheid people who go around the world and say, yes, the occupation is very bad, and we have to end the occupation, and we need a two-state solution. That's usually what they talk about. But, and then comes the list of demands, but this and this and that. But which demands really can we talk about? But the demand is we have to acknowledge the Jewish character of the state of Israel. Why so? Israel is Jewish not in the religious sense, but in the ethnic supremacist sense. Actually, the majority of Jewish Israelis are not religious, they're secular. Most of the Jews around the world do not live in Israel, they live abroad. And even though it has, as a state, some religious characteristic, the main thing is about, with the definition of Jewishness, is about the ethnic belonging, the ethnicity of a person. And everything is made in order to differentiate between the ethnic Jews and the rest of the world. Even those who are living in Israel, they're being discriminated against legally. So actually my citizenship card, it says citizenship Israeli, nationality Jewish. So the state defines me as an Israeli Jew, and actually they have a whole list of different nationalities in Israel, the Ministry of Interior, but none of them is Israeli. There is no such thing as Israeli nationality in Israel, for a very good reason. For the same reason that there is no constitution in Israel. Because everything is made in order to segregate and differentiate between the privileged and the less privileged. That's how it works, and this is what we are struggling against. So we have the rebranding aspect that Israel is investing a lot of energy in. We have different laws that are being legislated. There's also the financial type of boycott. And you know that many companies are being boycotted, and there's many campaigns to boycott different companies, and most of them are actually not Israeli companies. You have many international companies that are being complicit in Israeli crimes and therefore should be boycotted. Obviously the companies, the Israeli companies that are, for example, working in or based in occupied territory, there's a reason to boycott them, and there's campaigns against them. There's a campaign against SodaStream, for example, which is a drink soda company that is manufacturing these soda devices, and there's a campaign against them. There's a campaign against the Dead Sea products and so on. But there's also many international companies that are being complicit. And what we're saying is that we're not willing for them to take part in crime. And if they do take part in crime, as conscientious people, conscientious buyers, we choose not to buy from them. It's very simple. We don't need guidelines for that. We don't need guidelines to choose what we buy in the supermarket. We can simply choose to buy one brand over another, and not choose the brand that is being rebranded, the brand that is all about disenfranchising people, oppressing people, and then trying to show how environmentally friendly we are and so on. So this is what we do. And this has quite an effect so far, and I'm more hopeful even for the future. And the main thing is that even the most mainstream Israeli commentators by now are acknowledging the effects of boycott, divestment, sanctions, and they're writing in the most mainstream newspapers that Israel is at a point where it has to change its ways. It will no longer be able to carry on the way it does without some fundamental change taking place. Now they don't want to make this change, but they understand that they will have to. And now the discussion in Israel is more or less about what type of a change is there going to be. and one type of discussion is, especially now after they realize that actually, according to official numbers, there is no longer a majority between the river and the sea, between the Jordan River and the sea. There is no longer a Jewish majority in that region. So, in fact, we know that there is a one-state condition. I mean, whether we like it or not. I mean, Israel controls this whole territory in different ways. There's different legal systems. There's all sorts of, different aspects and different complications there. But Israel controls this whole thing. And in that region, there is no longer a Jewish majority. So, to Israelis, now they can no longer, because the way they perceive it is that apartheid only applies to a minority controlling over the majority and not, even though Israel is an apartheid state from long ago, now they're actually forced into discussing, okay, so what is this place about? Because they understand, okay, we're a minority actually in this region. If we carry on controlling this region, what does this mean about the state? And there's different approaches for that. Now, all these approaches that are being discussed are basically about, okay, how can we maintain Jewish supremacy and what needs to be done in order to do that? So this is mainly the reasoning, the motivation for having a two-state solution, what they call a two-state solution, which is basically how can we have a smaller state which has as least Arabs as possible, and then in that small state we can maintain our much wanted Jewish supremacy. And then the other land, the rest of it, we will give to the Arabs. That's the rationale behind it. But still this is being discussed, and this is very important. And the whole discussion that we are bringing in with the BDS campaign is that we don't care whether it's going to be a one-state or two-state solution, or a five-state, or a confederation, or whatever. What we care about are the rights of people. And this is why I listed the three basic rights of Palestinians. The end of the occupation of 1967, equality in Israel, and the rights of the refugees, which are the majority of Palestinians. If these three rights are respected, I really don't care in what format it's going to take place. But it has to take place related to everyone who is being affected. Obviously, it makes more sense to do this in one way over another, but this is not the issue. The issue is about the rights, and this is a rights-based approach rather than a solution-based approach. And when we discuss the rights-based approach, then we are forcing those who discuss, okay, how are we going to minimize our state in order to maintain Jewish supremacy? Okay, are you going to still respect the rights of the people when you have your small state or not? This is the question that we should be pushing forward with. Okay, in your small state, are you going to have a democracy? Are you going to have equality? Because Israel boasts about being the only democracy in the Middle East, even though it's not a democracy and never was. Actually, there's hope that Egypt is kind of in its transformation to become the first democracy in the Middle East. Maybe Israel could follow. Maybe it could be the second. That's also good, and hopefully more to come. But this is what we should be pushing forward with: the rights issue, the rights-based approach, over and over and again. And this rights-based approach is a universal approach. It's based on international law, it's based on universally recognized human rights. And with that we can carry on, and with that we can actually make our demands, which is not about this type of tribalism, but there's the one-state tribe and there's the two-state tribe, and they're fighting each other. But rather, we demand the rights of everyone. We demand the rights of Jews. We demand the rights of Palestinians. We demand the rights of all people of the land. Do you want to ask some questions, maybe? Do you want to talk about also BDS campaigns? Yes.
In regards to the rights-based approach, would that not ultimately end with a one state, like, if, sorry, I'm not wording it right, but if everyone, hopefully if everyone was treated the same, then there wouldn't be a one state, two state, it would be like just one big country where everyone was treated the same.
If we have a one democratic state that respects the rights of everyone on that land and respects the rights of the people of the land and the sons and daughters of the land, because many of the Palestinians are actually, who have rights, are actually not on that land at the moment, but you know, they still have rights, they're in exile, then sure, I mean, that would make the most sense, I guess. But in theory, it could also, these rights of the people of the land could also be implemented in other ways. For example, in a two-state solution. Theoretically, it could happen. I agree that it makes more sense. Also, since the situation on the ground is such that it is really, it doesn't make sense to where exactly is the border going to go through. I mean, how are you going to separate these communities? These communities have a great disparity according to their rights and their privileges and so on, and their financial situation and all of that. But they are sort of living among each other. They just don't interact with each other. You know, they also treat Jerusalem, Israel, the Israeli state treats Jerusalem as the unified city, unified eternal city, which they unified in 1967. But actually, it's the most segregated city that I know. You have so many different communities that refuse to talk to each other. So, and there's actually two walls going through the city. One is the old city wall, and then there's the new wall that is being built that goes right through, you know, the main street of certain Palestinian villages and segregates like families, you know, in two. One is on one side of the wall, the other is on another side of the wall, and they have great problems reaching each other. But